Good day, this is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Kalamata, Greece on June 23rd, 2026 for Reason to Resist. A few days ago, I had the opportunity to attend in central Kalamata, this was just this past weekend, a large gathering of people of conscience. It was organized by a collective of anti-fascist and anti-racist activists here in Kalamata, and it was quite an inspiring event, I thought. There was a speech delivered remotely from Lebanon by Georges Abdallah, the legendary Lebanese resistance fighter who was recently released from a French prison after serving decades in confinement. I also saw some wonderful children's art dedicated to the suffering of Palestinian children. We all heard from a Greek activist who was on the flotilla to Gaza several weeks ago and who witnessed and experienced the brutal treatment meted out by Israel's genocide forces to those citizens of conscience who were aboard those vessels. And I also ran into, again, a very interesting gentleman by the name of Nikolas Kosmatopoulos, who is an associate professor at the American University of Beirut. He was one of the speakers that evening. And I actually met him on my last visit to Beirut. He was introduced to me by Laith Marouf. We had a beer together with Laith and Rami Yahya in Hamra. And during that conversation, he shared with me some views which I happen to espouse myself about the proper place of the Greek people in this world. And to cut to the chase, I've been arguing for some time that we Greeks have much more in common with the peoples of the Eastern Mediterranean and West Asia than we do with the peoples of Northern Europe. No disrespect intended, of course, to our brothers and sisters in the north of Europe. And this was a view which apparently Nikolas has been expounding for some time, including on Greek television, and sometimes he's gotten a little bit of flack for it from people who see Greece as being firmly planted in the European world. In any case, after Nikolas spoke, I had the opportunity to interview him for about 15 minutes. So I'm about to share that interview with you, but before you hear from Nikolas, I am going to also share with you footage of what we saw that evening, including a clip in the French language of the speech delivered by Georges Abdallah from Beirut. If you find this video to be useful, please do like and share it. And if you're not already a subscriber to Reason to Resist, please become one and help us to expand the reach of our unapologetic resistance journalism. So with no further ado, here is what I saw and heard from participants in this solidarity event in Kalamata this past weekend. Good day, this is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Kalamata, Greece on June 20th, 2026. I'm in the center of Kalamata in Laminikos Park, and I've come here this evening for the annual anti-racist and anti-fascist gathering in this lovely little park. And tonight, much of the energies of the organizers and those who've assembled here will be devoted to defending the Palestinian cause. And I'm going to take you around, show you what is happening here this evening. The first order of business, I understand, is going to be a speech delivered remotely by the resistance fighter, the legendary resistance fighter, Georges Abdallah, who is currently in Lebanon, but he will be speaking to us in a few moments in French. Until that speech begins, let me take you for a walk around and show you what's happening here.
Για τις αιτίες, για τις πραγματικές αιτίες της σύγκρουσης στη Μέση Ανατολή. γιατί πολλές φορές αναρωτιόμαστε γιατί αυτό το τόσο ενδιαφέρον των μεγάλων δυνάμεων να διαπράττουν και ολοκαύτωμα και γενοκτονίες και γενοκτονίες. Γιατί? Πίσω πάντα από τα μεγάλα εγκλήματα που έχουν διαπράξει είναι τα γεωπολιτικά και οικονομικά τους συμφέροντα. Οι καπιταλιστές, οι απεικιοκράτες, οι εμπεριαλιστές δεν διστάζουν σε τίποτα μπροστά από το κέρδος τους, από το να εξυπηρετήσουν τα οικονομικά τους συμφέροντα. Και όμως η Παλαιστίνη πού κουλάει σε αυτό? Η Παλαιστίνη είναι, η έκτασή της είναι σχεδόν το 1/5 της Ελλάδας. Η Παλαιστίνη δεν έχει πετρέλαιο. Η Παλαιστίνη δεν έχει φυσικό αέριο, έχει μικρή ποσότητα που είναι σήμερα.
Λοιπόν, και τώρα στα αλήθεια ξεκινάμε.
So this says from Palestine to Mexico, struggle for freedom.
Η σημερινή μας εκδήλωση έχει τίτλο «Η γειτονιά μας λέγεται Παλαιστίνη, Λίβανος, Ιράν». Θέλουμε να μιλήσουμε για τον πόλεμο, για το Ισραήλ, για την επιθετικότητα του Ισραήλ στην Δυτική Ασία.
So Georges Abdallah, the legendary resistance fighter who recently was liberated from a French prison after decades of imprisonment and returned to Lebanon, is about to deliver a recorded speech
Θα ξεκινήσουμε, όπως είπα και
from
πριν, με
Beirut.
το μαγνητοσκοπημένο χαιρετισμό του Georges Abdallah, Λιβανέζος κομμουνιστής ακτιβιστής για την Παλαιστίνη. Στη συνέχεια το λόγο θα πάρει ο Νικόλας Κοσματόπουλος. Τον ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ που ήρθε από το Λίβανο στην Καλαμάτα για να μας μιλήσει για τις εμπειρίες του εκεί, για τις εξελίξεις, για όλα αυτά που ξέρει πάρα πολύ καλά ο Νικόλας να μας πει. Είναι συγγραφέας, αναπληρωτής καθηγητής πολιτικής ανθρωπολογίας στο Αμερικανικό Πανεπιστήμιο της Βηρητού. Στη συνέχεια το λόγο θα πάρει ο Γιώργος Τσίρης, που είναι μέλος της αντιφασιστικής κίνησης Καλαμάτας και ήταν και πλήρωμα στο στόλο της ελευθερίας στο Global Sumut Flotilla. Και στο τέλος θα μας μιλήσει ο Νασίμα Λάτρας, δημοσιογράφος και συγγραφέας, Παλαιστίνιος, στην καταγωγή, πολλά χρόνια ζει στην χώρα μας.
I was in Lesvos in 2015 reporting on the refugee crisis. This is a commemoration of that terrible summer.
Και να δούμε πού θα καταλήξει αυτή την κουβέντα. Αυτό θέλουμε να ανοίξουμε την κουβέντα και να ανοίξουμε τη συζήτηση και να δούμε τα ζητήματα που μπαίνουν μπροστά μας. Οπότε ξεκινάμε με το μήνυμα.
Chers camarades, chers amis, au début de cette courte intervention, permettez-moi de vous saluer toutes et tous d'ici, du Liban, cette tranchée avancée de la résistance anti-impérialiste, anti-sioniste, en vous souhaitant au cours de ce festival antifasciste de Kalamata des moments agréables de fraternité, d'échange d'idées et de profondes réflexions qui éclairent les perspectives afin d'avancer sur le chemin de la lutte et de la résistance. Au-delà de l'émotion qui m'envahit en écho à la chaleur de votre mobilisation solidaire, partagez avec vous l'enthousiasme inhérent à votre rassemblement aujourd'hui me remplit de force et de confiance dans la certitude de votre engagement sur les terrains de la lutte anticapitaliste, anti-impérialiste et aux côtés des masses populaires palestiniens et de leurs avant-gardes combattantes, surtout celles emprisonnées dans les geôles sionistes.
Nikolas, thank you for speaking with me this evening.
You're welcome.
So, you've arrived today from Beirut. It's been a horrible day, and not just today. It's actually been since the beginning of March and going back all the way back to 2023, but today was one of the worst days that the Lebanese people have had to endure. And it appears also that this has finally provoked the closure of the Strait of Hormuz again. can you talk to us a little bit about the conditions in Lebanon today? What happened during the past 24 to 48 hours, as best as you can tell?
Well, it's been an onslaught. It's been an onslaught. The Israelis have decided to up the ante of massacring civilians. It has been, as far as I heard, I think 250 killed already in attacks all over Lebanon. Civilians, women, even one of our researchers in the university has told me that a friend of hers in Abadia was killed, and she was telling me that thank God they didn't return as they were planning to themselves, but the other family returned, and this is what happened to them. They were killed for returning to their land. Actually, this is the price they pay for returning to their land. So the Israelis are punishing people for returning to their land, and they want also, of course, to punish the Americans somehow for agreeing with the Iranians to commit to a ceasefire. Obviously, the Israelis want to boycott, if not to torpedo the ceasefire. They want to return back to what they know only, so best, to war. They want to continue the war. They want to have certain areas in Lebanon being taken by force, by lethal force. But I understand that they also encounter resistance, fierce resistance, and this is important to say. And I think this also explains their rage and their wrath against civilians. The Israelis respond with attacks to civilians when they are faced with military defeat.
Now, when I met you in Beirut about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, you and I had a very interesting discussion about the place of the Greek people in the world. And I was pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't say surprised, but it was a pleasant discovery on my part that you share a view that I happen to have, which, as far as I could tell, that the Greek people really belong very much to the region of the Eastern Mediterranean and have much more in common with the Arabs and the Iranian people, the peoples of the West Asia, even the Turkish people. We have much more in common, of course. And I think you had something to say about that tonight, and you were speaking about the values of Greeks, the history of Greeks, and how we are more. Look, we've lost our light. God damn it.
So I don't think it's going to be. It's in Beirut all over again.
Let me start over, okay? I'll shorten my question.
You're doing great, though.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
So when I met you in Beirut last week, it was very interesting to me. Over our discussion, I learned that you have a similar view to myself about the place of the Greek people in the world, and whether we have more in common with the peoples of the Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean, West Asia, than we do with the Northern Europeans. What is your view about that? And please take a moment to explain the basis of your view.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. What my view is, if you look at the history of the region, we have been part of the region, meaning we, the Greeks, for thousands of years, for millennia. We've been actually interacting more with Arabs, Turks, Balkan people, more than anybody else. And I think this is important because it has also maintained an identity that is still there, but it's been practically it's been somehow concealed. I mean, this identity, this belonging, this history has been violated or has been denied by the modern Greek state narrative, the modern Greek state narrative about the place of Romniosini, of the Greeks in the world, especially in the world of Mediterranean East, as I prefer to call it. This is important because I think that it's at work. There is at work a kind of an identity construction an imagined identity that begins with Greece and ends somewhere, goes all the way to Rome and to France, England, and then ends somewhere in Washington DC. This is practically the constructed narrative of Western modernity. Unfortunately, the Greeks have agreed to that because, of course, they have been invited to be part of this modernity. But this is by all means, historically it's not true. Even modernity is not necessarily only a product of the West, because it's been a kind of a global product. The West monopolizes the narrative, and the Greeks are important for that narrative because they are placed at the beginning of it. But if you look at the history, if you look actually at the people, if you look even at the way that the people relate to the region, to the Greek people, I think it contradicts this idea. However, the narrative is extremely strong, is very well constructed through schools, ideologies, the intellectuals of the elites, of course the European Union, nowadays even more, integration to the European project. All of these are elements of this construction, but it is nevertheless a construction. It doesn't have to be like that. And I think this is a battle for the region. It's part of the battle for the region, for the psyche of the region. Where do modern Greeks belong, if you wish, or what kind of belongings can we discuss? Can we actually entertain? Certainly nowadays, with all the fundamental changes that we see in Western Asia, I think it's worth asking this question again. How do we really see ourselves, especially when have been treated, modern Greeks, 10 years ago, they've been treated like outcasts, during the crisis. By Europe, by the West, there has been a lot of looking down on them. There has been a lot of orientalizing them. So you see that when the crisis hits, the Europeans remember more than the Greeks want to remember where the Greeks actually belong. So it's time for the Greeks, I think, to embrace geography, to embrace history, and destroy this constructed identity.
Right. Now, during your speech this evening, I understood you to say or suggest that around the time that the Troika imposed this vicious austerity program on Greece beginning in 2010, that coincidental with this was a dramatic change in the Greek government's policies towards the genocidal Israeli entity.
Yeah.
Could you talk to us about that?
Well, that's a hypothesis that I think it's worth pursuing. It's a hypothesis, political hypothesis, because there is of course a sequence of events that need to be investigated. April 2010, Greece loses officially its sovereignty. It goes bankrupt. Practically, it cannot pay salaries, it cannot pay actually its debts, and it submits itself to a negotiation that led to the Memorandum of Understanding, not this one, between Iran and the US, another Memorandum of Understanding, much more negative for the Greek people, which practically led to the capitulation of the sovereignty, of the fiscal sovereignty of the country. Now, a few months later, for the first time in the history of the Greek state, ever, you have the visit of an Israeli prime minister, and that was no other than Benjamin Netanyahu, in August 2010. And ever since, you have a series of agreements between the two countries that practically tie Greece to Israel's strategic depth. Military agreements, we're in Kalamata, I think you talked about the Kalamata base. Diplomatic, of course, backing. I mean, Greece has been the diplomatic gateway for Israel in the European Union, but also other forms of economic agreements that are not fully investigated. Real estate, of course, chances, Greece is anyway, it's up for grabs for many with money out there, Greek real estate. But mainly you have practically, again, contra to the Greek modern history, such an open embrace of the genocidal state, and I do think that this timing it's not a conspiracy. This timing is actually needs to be investigated. Now, I don't have anything more than just that, but I do believe that when you lose sovereignty, you become actually open to all forms of infiltration, of submission, of integration against your own will. And this is what's been happening in Greece for the last 15 years.
And do you believe that this strategic alliance that Greece's government has pursued quite aggressively with Israel, that it is one that enjoys broad-based support in the country, or is it your sense that the majority of Greeks are opposed to this alliance?
It depends who you ask. Unfortunately, the Greek state has also been extremely aggressive in forming and transforming and imposing a myth, a really very dangerous myth about this alliance. Apparently, the myth goes that Israel will help us, Greece, against Turkey. I cannot imagine how destructive, how disastrous could that be, to believe this myth. There are some people who believe this myth, unfortunately, as if Israel would be in any way a party to the conflict between Greece and Turkey. This is a disastrous idea, but because unfortunately, again, much of the Greek population is still unable to see the world without the Turkish lens. Turkey is to a great extent our lens to the east and to the region, and this is a huge pathology of the Greek foreign policy, but also permeates to a great extent all parties, somewhat, some less, some others more, of course, more to the right. The parties to the right are obsessed with Turkey, so this trick might work to some people, but if you really look into the Greek population, I don't believe that this is something that they could entertain. But Greece has transformed the last 15 years. It's not the same country as it used to be 15 years ago, I can tell you that. And the crisis has also transformed, made people cynical. The propaganda made people also extremely hostile to immigrants, some people at least. There's still another part of Greece that still, stands to the principles of humanity, of solidarity, and that's a huge part. But it's been fragmented, it's been attacked, it's been actually, disoriented. We need to work on that.
And lastly, and related to the question I just asked you, I understand that some people in Greece have described you, and not in a good way, as a Turkophile. Why have they described you as a Turkophile? Do you think that is a fair characterization?
No. I do think, as I said, that we need to rethink, to study again our history, and that includes also the history of the Greek people in the Ottoman Empire. I believe that this has been going on. It's not really something new. It's not really me who's doing that anyway. I'm not really a historian. So I do believe that we need to rethink, to reflect, and to revisit this history, which has been unfortunately poisoned. The official history has been poisoned with a lot of hatred against the Turkish people. I don't hate the Turkish people. I don't hate any people generally. I believe, however, that we have much more in common with the Turkish people, with the Balkan people, with the Arabs. And I can tell you that because I lived through these last years with them, with Arab people, Lebanese and others, and I can feel that these are our people. So I want this history to be rethought. I want the Greek population, as far as I can, to come closer to another understanding of coexistence in the region. I think we can do it much better. It makes much more sense to be in a union with these people than with Western Europeans, if you ask me. I have nothing against the Western Europeans. It's just that, I don't feel culturally affiliated. I don't feel also socially very close.
Yeah.
Historically, this region has been closer than than the last 200 years. We don't have to keep this division. It's only poisoning ourselves, poisoning our region, poisoning our life.
Especially Western Europeans who are led by the likes of Starmer, Merz, and Macron.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. I think now Europe is been extremely, a different Europe than the one that maybe the Greeks had in mind. So it's a great opportunity to rethink also our place in this Europe. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you very much for speaking.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.